If there was ever anything to convince you that there's something strange going on in the news and the media with regard to certain characters and personalities, this is it. So please watch all the way through this video because this is fascinating. So you'll recall that I covered the arrest of Tommy Robinson. In fact, all of the news companies covered the arrest of Tommy Robinson and the speculation as to what it was he was arrested for. Now, I discussed that at length with him, and it wasn't really clear what it was for. There wasn't really anything clear with regard to alleged immigration offences or anything else of the kind. And so ultimately, it was just a bit strange. But what's even stranger than that is that it's now been about 12 hours since Tommy broke the news of his release, the return of his passport. He's going on with his life. There's nothing to worry about. And I was right when I called it, that I said I think they've made the mountain out of a molehill and there's nothing really going on. They're probably a little bit awkward in that they didn't know what to do with him. Now they had him because they probably made the wrong assumption that he was there to do something else or whatever the case might be. Whatever it was they assumed probably wasn't really the case. There probably wasn't a reason to detain him, but they needed some good reason to say, well, this is why we detained you and this is why we're now letting you go. And if I could just ask you, if you do want to see more of my content, please do subscribe here on YouTube and also check me out over on X. Please do follow me there. I have about 25,000. I was a little bit behind the curve on X, but please do pop over there and follow me on X as well. Thank you very much for doing that. I really appreciate it. But as I say, it's been about 12 hours since Tommy broke the news of his release and return of his passport. However, the news hasn't covered that because when you Google Tommy Robinson and news, because yes, okay, his real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, but he goes by Tommy Robinson. It's a sort of stage name, a caricature name, whatever. Loads of people do that. There's a whole list, even Tom Cruise. I think Cruise is his middle name or something. But anyway, the news hasn't covered this. But when you Google Tommy Robinson under news on Google, the recent news is 2 days ago. So if we take a look at who covered this news, Global News covered it, the London Economic, the Irish Independent, because shock horror, he's Irish. Now, there's a very interesting aside on X when he showed photographs of the documents, which lo and behold showed that he had an Irish passport. And then some people acted like it was an aha moment, we've caught you out. To which I responded to say, isn't it a little bit ironic that you're saying that you're acting like you caught him out on something which he shared publicly to 600,000 followers? I don't think he cares that people know that, but let's move on. So moving on. So that was the Irish Independent that covered it. Yahoo covered it. The Telegraph covered it. Sky News covered it. The Independent, iNews, the Independent again. That's a month ago now. So lots of big companies covered that. The BBC didn't cover it. I looked at BBC. The most recent from them was back when they said that the Met Police admitted to putting the wrong date on the court order. Do you remember when there was a submission of no case to answer for the breach of that order? Well, I covered that as well, which is also a bit strange. So bear with me. So when the BBC covered that back in April, they said that the Met Police admit to putting the wrong date on the court order. Now, if you were a reasonable, hypothetical person looking at that news headline, you might think that he, quote unquote, got away with it because they put the wrong date on it. But if you recall, I covered that in great detail because it was very unusual for the judge in a case like this to give full written reasons, pages and pages of written reasons. And it wasn't just about the date. I'll link the video below so you can go and hear this in much more detail. But in short, it was certainly not just about the date. It was very much more than just the date being wrong. That was one of many factors. But one of the main factors was that this authorization decision to use these powers was based on a mistake of fact. And so there's lots of detail there. I won't go into that now, but I will link that video below as well. But coming back on point here, it's been almost 12 hours or about 12 hours since Tommy broke the release, news of his release, and no media, no company, no news company has covered it. And now I would ask, why not? Surely that's news. It's just as much news as when he was arrested and detained. Surely it's just as much news that he's been released. Because had he done something wrong and been detained or deported or charged with an offence or whatever, that would be news too. And had he done something wrong, I'd be sitting here saying, well, that's right. That's justice at play. If he's done something wrong, he's been punished for doing something wrong. That's justice at play again. But if he's released, that is also justice at play, whether you support him or whether you don't support him. What I do hope that you support is the rule of law and true justice. And justice doesn't just mean someone is punished for something. Justice also means that they are released if they haven't actually done anything wrong. So let's go back to the headlines here from 2 days ago on his arrest and take a look at those headlines and how they almost seem to glorify the arrest as hot news, but not so hot that he's released, apparently. But let's take a look at some of these headlines. Let's start with the London Economic. A Canadian arrest document shows Tommy Robinson is an Irish citizen. Shock horror. Tommy Robinson arrested for alleged immigration offences in Canada. Well, that's not necessarily true either, because they didn't make clear what it was for. They said it was something to do with his immigration, of course, because he was coming into the country. But offences, it wasn't really made clear as to what those offences were. So I don't really agree with that either. That's just my view. Yahoo went with what we know after Tommy Robinson was arrested in Canada and referred to him, even in the snippet here, as an activist. The Telegraph went with arrested in Canada for immigration offences. There's no question mark there. I would suggest there should be a question mark because it wasn't absolutely clear that that's what the arrest was for. It was quite unclear, in fact, what the arrest was for. Sky News was a little bit more balanced and said arrested over suspected immigration offences in Canada. And so, yes, he was arrested, and yes, it may have had something to do with the immigration. I mean, of course, it was the most likely thing that was of suspect because he was going into the country. The Independent, again, went with something a little more vague, just arrested after a visiting tour, etc. So, in short, they all saw fit to report on this, on the arrest and the detention, the alleged offences or suspected offences or whatever they were going to be. But as I said, it was quite unclear. What's even more unclear, and to be quite honest, a little bit disappointing, is that there hasn't been a follow-up. Now, again, I stress, regardless of whether you support him or not, I'm not telling you to support him. I'm not telling you you shouldn't support him. What I'm saying is you should certainly support, for one, the rule of law and equal justice. So if someone has done something wrong, they should be punished for it. And if they haven't done something wrong, they should be released with apologies. And secondly, fair and balanced reporting on all of the above. So if someone is arrested for something and they saw it fit to arrest somebody, detain somebody on what they published as alleged immigration offences, surely there should be an update and some kind of follow-up if they've been released. So now, looking at, let's take the Sky News article, Tuesday, 25th of June, it says he was arrested, etc., etc. We go down, there isn't much more to it. It was a relatively short article, but it hasn't been updated, so far as I can see. It just remains to say that he was detained after arriving and was not allowed to travel home. So there's no update to that. And there's no follow-up by Sky News in the listings here. I would expect that there would be. And I'm a little bit surprised, a little bit disappointed that there isn't. And it's been pointed out that no company has done that. One can only question why. And I can't give you an answer to that because I'm not a news company and yet I'm covering it. I mean, 12 hours ago, puts us at, sort of 2 a.m. here. And today is a Saturday. We got up, we had things to do. I've just had lunch. I'm sitting down. This is my first opportunity literally now to sit down and do a video. And I'm doing it because I thought, well, I will do a video to cover the release because I did a video to cover the arrest. That's sort of fair because then I've put a video out to say that he's been arrested. Now I will do a video to say that he's been released. He's got his passport back. He's on his way. He will be home for his daughter's birthday, etc. Now, again, whether you like him or not, he's a person with a family, etc. And now he's going on about his business. And so I think that's fair reporting. Even though I'm not a news company, I'm not a reporter as such, but I would think that a news company ought to do that. And so with the greatest respect to the news companies, I really think they should do that. I think that will be fair And it is a story. Maybe they don't think it's such a story. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe they don't think it's a story. I think that it is, because if they thought that it was a story enough to print it in the first place when he got arrested, I would think that it's a story to cover when he's released. Let me know in the comments what you think. Respectfully, please. I do like to keep my comment section respectful. And if you do like to see more of my content and these updates, do also follow me over on X, because it's always useful to have a backup platform somewhere that you can also go to see my content, so you can see it there as well. But I have 25,000 followers over on X compared to the almost 500,000 subscribers here on YouTube. Please do subscribe here as well. I'd be very grateful you subscribe. I really want to hit that 500,000 mark. And so leave me your thoughts and comments. Why is it you think that the news have not covered the release? I think that's a question worth asking and deserves an answer. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.